today we're here at Outreach Team Family Services office. I'm Amelia.
And I'm Sarah.
We are here today with Mr. Jason Haberman, the new Mount Lebanon Police Chief. Thanks for coming. Today we'll be discussing what it's like for Mr. Haberman to be the new police chief.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So now we are going to do the Fast 5 icebreaker questions. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
All right. Where did you grow up?
Scott Township.
Oh, I work there. I work at Scott Pool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I graduated from Chartiers Valley. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a local guy.
Yeah. Okay. And why did you want to become a police officer?
Really, as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a police officer. I had, my earliest memory of it is, there used to be these Dr. Seuss books. You would fill out, what you want to be. And so I still have mine probably from when I was 8 years old, and written in the front as police officer. So it's really never wavered from my desire to be a police officer from a very, very young age. So it's always been there, and it's sort of always been something that I've been drawn to. And it's been a great career for me.
All right. Do you like dogs?
I'm sorry?
Do you like dogs?
I do.
You do like dogs? Okay. Do you like dogs?
I like dogs.
I like dogs.
I prefer cats, though.
I prefer dogs. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke for sure.
Yeah, Coke.
Yeah.
You definitely like Pepsi, don't you?
Actually, well, if I would choose neither, but if I have to choose, Coke.
Okay. What is your favorite color?
Favorite color? That's interesting. Probably something earthy, like green or something like that.
Yeah, I like green. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We would like to thank St. Clair Health for being our annual sponsor.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
So to start us off, I think we've all had a subconscious fear of police officers. We've all been in situations where maybe we've been going a little fast on roads and seen a police car. There's always a lot that goes into being a police officer, though. Their main focus is public safety. Mr. Haberman, I can only imagine the things that you and other police officers have gone through or seen while on duty. I know police officers are usually the first ones on scene when an incident occurs. Do you think these incidents can take a toll on officers?
Oh, absolutely. We've become more and more aware of mental health of police officers over the last few years. It's really been a big initiative of mine personally as a police chief and really as a police supervisor for the last number of years. So what we've learned is that does in fact take a toll. We sort of relay it as it's sort of the analogy of death by 1,000 cuts. And so what happens is you have police officers that go through a 20-year career and they see one tragedy here, one unfortunate incident here, and it sort of all builds and adds up. And so what we've learned is really police officers have the same issues from trauma that others do. And so, there was never really a focus or an emphasis to diffuse that trauma and address that trauma for a long, long time. And so what we're very happy about at the police department is that, and in law enforcement in general, is that we're addressing those issues. We're addressing PTSD. We're addressing things that can lead to PTSD. We're addressing a lot of the factors that are out there that really compound that, whether it's quality of life things for police officers and everything that everybody else goes through, paying your bills, keeping your house in order, having a running car. All those things everybody else has to deal with, police officers have to deal with, and then they come to work and they have to deal with, those tragic events that you mentioned. And so a lot of things that we're really focused on is making sure that our police officers are really best positioned to serve the residents of Mount Lebanon. And in order to do that, we really focus on a wellness program that's holistic in nature, and that's include whether it's financial management or whether it includes spiritual counseling or anything in between. So it's something that we really focus on. It's something that I've lost a colleague to suicide, a very dear friend, a number of years ago. And so it's something that is near and dear to me that really I've seen the effects of it when you don't address it. And really, it's the rate of suicide in police officers is significantly higher than that in other professions, and so for that reason, it's really important that we address those things. So, to answer your question, yes, it absolutely affects police officers. It affects us in a number of different ways. Those of us who've been doing it a long time really recognize that, and that's the first step in it, and understanding it and sort of working through that. So, for sure, it's one of those things that we're trained to deal with it. However, it absolutely affects everybody.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm really thankful that you guys are taking care of those types of situations now.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think that's really important to hear, because I think we forget oftentimes that you guys aren't these super robots that serve the community. You guys are people just like us. So I can't even imagine, going through what you guys have to go through. And especially with somebody in that career for 20 years, that's a lot of just built up pain and trauma from those incidents that I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it can be a lot for sure, and it's something that again, we have become more aware and more really put the emphasis on having officers be aware of what they're going through, and when to step back if they need to. And we go through a lot of different training, and one of the things that we've done is it's a new initiative called Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement, or ABLE training. And that's really where you can sort of check yourself out, or have another officer sort of check yourself during a situation or during an incident, and also after. And so it's something that just an awareness, and it's sort of a paradigm shift in our industry. So it's something we're very happy about participating in for those reasons. So if everybody feels themselves sort of getting in the red, as we call it, that they can take a step back and really reassess what they're doing, or have somebody else handle it. So it is something that we are more and more aware of every day, and something that is very, very important in order for us to give the best service to the community.
Yes, as somebody who wants to go into first response, specifically on the medical field, and has a sister that has been working as a paramedic for a long time, people don't really understand how traumatic that line of work is, and I think it's extremely important that we kind of almost handle those types of people with care, because they do things that most people in the community wouldn't be able to handle on a daily basis.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that, and recognizing that.
Absolutely.
I would like to pause and thank St. Clair Health for their generosity in sponsoring the second season of Teens Tap In.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve so we can be stronger together. By creating reliable resources that recognize all of our neighbors, with access to the highest quality healthcare, advanced care close to home, and a shared humanity that delivers on our joint vision to create a healthier community for all. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
I know with the extent of some level of fear most people have of police officers, there can be some hatred as well. A lot of the time, I think police officers are really misunderstood. Sure, nobody wants a ticket for speeding, but sometimes we don't realize how much danger we were in until we're holding that ticket in our hands. With that being said, I can say the same thing about substance abuse. So I have a distant family member who is a recovering addict. He's an alcoholic. So I've seen with my own eyes, how bad addiction really is and really can be. I also know that there is a pretty big substance abuse issue in my own generation with nicotine and vaping products. Would you say addiction is a big issue amongst teens, and how would you go about getting somebody to stop vaping?
Well, I do think it's a big issue. I think it's probably one of the biggest issues we face with our teens. That and social media, and really the influence of social media, could probably be tied together and symbiotic in a lot of ways. Going about it is definitely a group effort. It's got to be addressed from a school problem, from the home, as well as from our perspective in public safety. And so it's got to be access to those things have to be looked at, and how kids and teens are getting these things. It's got to be looked at in terms of why somebody would turn to vaping and feel like they need to solve their problems that way. And that's really, the root cause analysis that really has to be examined. Again, the wonderful work that folks at Outreach do really lends itself to that. And that's really something we're very fortunate to have, Outreach really is a model for communities and should be. It's a partnership that was started with the police department a number of years ago before shared partnerships were cool, as we like to say. And so, Outreach, if you don't know the history, was started as a after-school truancy program by Chief Verrilman, former chief of police from Mount Lebanon, and Outreach at the time, those involved, and community leaders to have a after-school program. And it sort of has morphed from there into what you all have made it. So it's a tremendous success story for those reasons. And so kids and teens have a place to turn to. They have a place to go for help. They have counselors they can speak with. It's really a tremendous asset for us as a police department to be able to send teens and say, hey, there's people you can talk to, and hey, they're right down the street, by the way, or they're right here. And so having the relationship really has been something that we hold in high regard and we utilize all the time. So, to your question, I really think it is a holistic approach, and I think it's a model in how you approach it. So, the schools are always very active in making sure they identify sort of those individuals who may have issues. And so we work with our school resource officer and the school district and really identifying those individuals to help get them into the program. So I think it's definitely a group effort, and it's got to be a team approach in order to solve these problems. But I think the amount of money that teens are spending on this, and the amount of really dependency teens are having on vaping is just really quite the problem, and it's probably going to be looked at in the next couple of years as more significant than we even think it is now.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really, really big issue. Firsthand from somebody who spent 4 years in high school. I go to South Fayette. It's not nearly an issue at South Fayette. We're very good about preventing it, as it is in some other places. And I can see firsthand what those things do to people, and it is scary. And I think to myself, later down in your life, are you willing to sacrifice your own health for the peer pressure that you're going through right now to pick up that device and vape it? And it's so hard to prevent. Yeah. I mean, all the schools are trying their best to crack down on it, and they're doing everything they possibly can. And it is still a big issue. And a lot of it does have to do with social media, and a lot of it has to do with peer pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. I really, we talk about it all the time. We really feel for teenagers and teens today because of the pressures that exist, and really the expectations are unrealistic that social media puts on teens, and it's really unsustainable, if you ask me. And at some point, something got to change in terms of how that's approached, or how the issue of vaping really is available. So now it definitely something that we all have to look at, and I can say that without a doubt. It's really important that, we do programs with our younger kids, with the elementary school kids about vaping and the results of it. Consequences aren't really looked at until you get older. That's the unfortunate part. When you're young, you don't think about those things that you mentioned, where, hey, you feel like it's going to affect your health down the road. But what, we wish we could all, as adults and as folks who have been through those things, recognize that we wish we could tell young people that really it's important to take care of your bodies, important to take care of yourselves, and you'll get through this and you'll get to the other side of it. And whenever you do, you want to be healthy and be able to enjoy things. So that's very important.
Lastly, this podcast would not be possible without the support of St. Clair Health. Please listen in to the following ad.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
So I have one last question. What are you hoping to promote in the community you serve?
Well, interestingly enough, a big initiative we have is a mental health co-response program. So there's a lot of things right now we're going through in law enforcement and how we change our approach. Whether it's compliance on traffic offenses, where maybe we might go and put it out on social media and then really emphasize a informational campaign for an intersection that maybe is excessive speeding, or we have reports of excessive speeding. And then we might ticket that location or put a presence in that location and inform the public. So it's really an inform and educate approach, and then to receive compliance, as opposed to before, we were really into the emphasis was on enforcement. And so we sort of changed over the last number of years to sort of make that our emphasis. And with that, in the next level of really implementation that we're trying to do in general at the police department is a co-response program for mental health and consumers of mental health. So we encounter consumers of mental health services, and we really have no resources as a police department to serve these individuals. They're vastly underserved, as you all know, significantly in terms of the amount of resources that are out there. And so one of the big initiatives we have now is to, in addition to the internal wellness component of our police officers, is really the external wellness component of the community and how we can best serve those individuals. So we're trying to put together a pilot program right now, really in conjunction with outreach and a number of others, where we can serve the consumers of mental health services in a much better way. And the idea would be is to coordinate that care during and after an incident, and really be pre-crisis. So what we're trying to do is prevent crisis. We're trying to prevent the individual who is a consumer of mental health services from getting to that point. So we want to make sure that the care is coordinated so they can go and get what they need, and we can be there to assist where needed and where appropriate. But really, what we found over a number of calls that we go to is police officers really aren't the most appropriate individuals to handle every type of call. And so the types of calls we've identified that really can be handled by individuals with different types of training really would be a better fit. And so that's the idea behind it. And we're a big believer in it. We believe that coordination of care is really sort of that missing piece that we've missed for a number of years. And we think if we can implement that piece, then we could prevent a number of individuals from going into crisis and really reduce that, sort of a harm reduction strategy as well. And so it really would help us out and help the community out.
That's wonderful. Just one last question for you.
Yeah, no worries.
Are there any community resources you'd like to highlight here?
Well, obviously outreach is something we lean on. In terms of teens or adults, what, just in general?
Teens.
Yeah, so I think teens who really are struggling right now really have an unbelievably great opportunity to reach out to resources in Mount Lebanon and surrounding communities, really, but specifically here. What's important to know is that services are not financially burdensome to anybody here, and the really important part is they're available. So whether it's you call or reach out to a counselor or reach out to a friend, I think the biggest advice I can give anybody is, regardless of what kind of professional help you can get to, it's important to talk to somebody. And I think the first step in that is, we all know professional help is really hard to schedule sometimes. Even as great of the service that outreach provides, it's just the level of really employees that exist for this type of work. It really is yeoman's work in terms of what the counselors do. And so it's hard to recruit a number of counselors, but the point is, there's a number of opportunities you have between here and there to get help and talk to people. So talk to a grown-up, find a trusted friend, talk to somebody. I think that something that I've always found is really, really important for even as an adult is just tell somebody. And then once you start that conversation, then a lot of people are willing to help. I think that what people forget is they don't want to ask for help, but there's a lot of people that are willing to help. And once you do, and you start that sort of conversation and get that ball rolling, you'll get a whole lot of people that will jump up and want to help you. And while it may not feel like it at the time, what's really important is those people are out there, and really you've just got to start that conversation with somebody who may not be in that situation with you, or somebody outside of that circle and really reach out to them. And that's really, I think, what would benefit a number of individuals going through any litany of types of problems.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly add, if you are in an immediate crisis, you can always call 988 7 days a week, 24/7, 24 hours a day. Or you can visit your local ER. Thank you, Mr. Haberman, so much for coming on the podcast with us today. Thank you for all our listeners' support. None of it would be possible without Outreach Teen and Family Services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
The views and opinions expressed in the Teens Tap In podcast represent the opinions of the hosts and their guests. The views and opinions expressed by Outreach Teen and Family Services employees, donors, and volunteers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Outreach Teen and Family Services or the show's sponsors. The content here should not be taken as counseling advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is unique, please consult your mental health provider or physician for any mental health counseling or other medical questions. The podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including, but not limited to, establishing a standard of care in a legal sense, or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast. If you find any error in any of the content of the podcast, please contact us at podcasts@outreachteen.org. Outreach Teen and Family Services, its sponsors, donors, and partners expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages whatsoever arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. Please go to www.outreachteen.org to see the complete notice and disclaimer for the podcast episodes.